Hey guys, what's up? It's Exup here, and in this video, I'm going to talk about my favorite manga slash anime, Horimiya, which I think is the best slice of life rom-com ever. Now, some of you might say, well, Exup, how about these other shows like Clanad, Angel Beats, Charlotte, Fruits Basket, Kimi ni Todoke, Oren High School Host Club, Hyoka, Orange, Haruhi Suzumiya, Oregairu, and not to mention some of the more popular ones from recent years like Kaguya-sama Love is War and My Dress-Up Darling. And though I have read, watched, and enjoyed several of those mentioned, I just have a particular affinity to Horimiya. It just resonated with me more than the others have. Perhaps part of the reason why I put Horimiya above the rest is that it was the first slice of life rom-com manga that I ever read about a decade ago. And as they say, you never forget your first. It sort of became the standard by which I judged other manga or anime in the same category. But it also hit many of the right notes for me for a story that talks about a person coming out of their shell, being comfortable in their own identity, learning to accept who they are, learning to be accepted by others and loved by others, as well as exploring all the nuances of teenage life, including romance and relationships, as the characters try to navigate the ups and downs of adolescence and all the awkwardness, bitterness, joys, pains, friendships, conflicts, uncertainties, and excitement that comes along with it. I loved how the mangaka was transparent and audacious enough to delve deep into the reality and experience of Miyamura, a teenage boy who, for the most part, was typecast as gloomy and awkward, which led to him being outcast and shunned by others. It showed how Miyamura internalized much of these experiences, which caused him to distance himself from others. At the same time, I liked how Miyamura's walls were slowly broken down by the headstrong and almost complete opposite personality of Hori. These two characters' chance encounter became the pivotal turning point of both their lives, and I just loved how their story unfolded from there. Unlike many of the older romance manga or anime, Horimiya didn't focus solely on the journey from friendship to romance. Instead, it showed us the different dimensions of these two characters' lives, from the mundane day-to-day activities both at home and school to the more plot-specific points leading up to them becoming a couple. I liked how the story showed us how these two characters meeting each other transformed their lives for the better, and how they actually bring out the best in the other. And although they became a couple halfway through the anime, it felt very natural because of how the plot progressed, with both of them starting to become more and more involved in each other's lives, which made them grow closer and closer to such a point where their existence feels lacking without the presence of the other in it. Of course, one other element to this story that I felt added a lot of flavor and depth was the fact that it didn't solely focus on just the two main characters either. We are introduced to a whole ensemble of characters, each with their own flaws and foibles and interesting personalities, which created a symphony as they interacted with each other and became more intertwined in the lives of all the other characters. In a sense, Horimiya felt like I was watching either Friends, The Big Bang Theory, or How I Met Your Mother in anime form, in that we have an array of side characters and subplots mingling with the main characters and the main plot, which makes it feel like a complete meal of sorts. And I never felt like any of the plot points were forced. It flowed naturally from one thing to the other, and I think that's why it appealed to my literary sensibilities. The pacing of the anime didn't feel too rushed, although I do feel like they skipped over a lot of interesting material in the manga, and that's why they made a second season, which wasn't new but only adapted the material which were not included in the first season. In terms of character development, I harken back to what I said regarding how both Hori and Miyamura changed each other for the better, and that showed in the way that both of them behaved around each other and around other characters as well. At the same time, they deepened their friendships with others in the story, in particular Miyamura, thus resolving one of the main tensions of the story, which is how Miyamura reconciles his past with his present. And this part of the story is perfectly exhibited in the episode where Miyamura meets a couple of his old middle school classmates. And ultimately, we have Miyamura coming to grips with his past self, accepting the reality of what happened to him in the past and choosing to move forward from it. At the end of the day, I think Horimiya exemplifies the slice of life category and excellently mixes all of the romance and comedy bits within that context, and that's why it's become so near and dear to my heart. It's a story of hope, friendship, and change. It shows us how the simple act of approaching others without prejudice or bias and being open-minded can turn something that was once gray into a life full of color and optimism. As a whole, I love both the manga and the anime, and I think the anime really captured how I envisioned it would be. I loved how the voice actors gave life to these characters, and I think they were all spot on with how I imagined each character to be. Horimiya is just a really wholesome story, and that's why it's at the top for me. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. See you in the next one.